So, welcome everybody to the first episode of Family Business Unplugged, a new podcast series produced by Campden Family Connect and hosted by me, Amit Patni. This series is bringing you insights from large business families of multi generations in India and how they have evolved in their journeys to build a global empire, navigating issues of, very softer issues about conflict, interest, how do we manage the succession planning, differences between family members. So it's a series which will go depth into things which are probably not discussed across in business schools and in boardrooms. And so we are very excited that we'll be, over the course of the next 6, 8 months, we'll be talking to various peoples who are young, dynamic, as well as we will of course talk to principals who have been, for generation. And to open the series, I am honored to have somebody who represents the next generation, a very young, dynamic businessman, Abhinav Ram Reddy, who is the managing director of GAR Corporation. And under his leadership, GAR has grown into a billion-dollar company, having one of the largest real estate in commercial in terms of square footage, which has built in Hyderabad, and he has managed to take on his father's reins and expand single-handedly to make a large empire. So, Abhinav, thank you for joining us and welcome to Family Business Unplugged.
Thanks, Amit. Just want to make a few corrections. You mentioned you'll be interviewing people who have a global empire. Mine is far from global. It's more of a local empire. And after 15 years of this business, I don't feel so young or dynamic anymore. I don't think I'm that young.
No, I think it'll be fun talking to you. Of course, I know you personally for last so many years, and we have sort of interacted at various occasions. So I would like to start off with sort of divulging into your younger days, while you were growing up, and how you learned from your father's legacy. How did you get into this building such massive real estate capacity in Hyderabad? Let's also talk about your education background and touch a bit of on your personal issues. I believe you have three young, beautiful daughters.
Yes.
So yeah, let's hear from you.
So, like you, I'm sure you know, Amit, when you grow up in a business family, you start your training from probably when you're 5, because everything you talk about, listen to at home is mostly about business. Mine's not really a large family. My father started the business about 40 years ago, and I joined about 15 years ago. We don't have multiple generations yet who have worked in the business or a larger family tree spreading to the side. I finished my education when I was about 2021 and moved back straight to India to join the business. I was quite clear from when I was young that this is what I wanted to do and this is what I was going to do. I didn't really know what I was getting into, but I was clear that this is what the path I wanted to follow. So started off in about 2010-11 when I finished my undergrad, and I've been working in the business ever since. Unlike a conventional wisdom that says you have to start off at the bottom and work your way to the top. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I started right at the top. There was no really on ground training and stuff like that. I started off as executive director and now managing director a few years ago. That's the path that was in front of me, so I took it.
Great. And you studied in, I believe, Harvard Business School?
Yeah, I did my OPM and alumni of Harvard. That's more of executive education. Started in 2017, 18 and finished a few years ago. I did my schooling from Hyderabad Public School in HPS. What I did when I started, maybe when I was 7, 8 years into business, that helped a little bit. Not really an MBA from Harvard, but yeah.
And tell me about how your father got into, building this real estate empire.
From the story he tells me, it's by accident because my grandfather was a civil servant and they wanted him also to become a civil servant or a lawyer or something like that. But I think his penchant for business was there from when he was 18, 19, growing up in Hyderabad. So it started off just opportunistically getting into real estate in terms of land and things like that. 80s and 90s, the opportunity for commercial real estate opened up when the Indian economy opened up. So you had a lot of multinationals and Indian companies, yours was one of them, that took up a lot of office space. So this stemmed from the fact that the business, it's not really a business, it's more of an asset creation sort of model, because when you invest and hold these assets, it yields you some annuity income over the years. So it was more stemmed from that, something to do that created a sort of safety for the family and the business in terms of annuity income. So I wouldn't say there was a long-term plan or anything. Most of it was ad hoc until the 90s to, and then when the scale started growing, I mean, you're forced to look at it in a more real sense and grow the business. So that's what we did, slow and steady over the last few decades.
Right. I think real estate has always been a sort of passion for our Indian families. So I remember my grandfather and father, when we were building Patni and whatever, when it was private, and additional cash flow used to flow into buying, real estate. And I think the belief was it's a hard asset and it's like a safe haven. So when you joined, yeah, but of course now it's a different. Let's say it's become very competitive and but
Yeah, still you see most people in any industries, when they create wealth or get an exit, a large portion of that goes into real estate. Especially in the southern cities, I think our penchant for land and real estate is abnormally high.
right,
So
right,
anybody in any business, whether it's manufacturing, retail, pharmaceuticals, huge pharmaceutical companies, I mean, the money ends up going into land and real estate, whether people like to talk
correct.
about it or not.
Yeah, I think, sort of in real estate, I remember when I joined the business and all, and my father's other business friends used to tell, in the Birlas and others, because you are putting up a factory and you will expand, and you will need land because in those days, the government was not giving those MIDCs and government industrial parks were not there, in the 90s.
Yeah.
So a lot of large industrial families amassed a lot of land for their future expansion. Now, of course, that some of them have turned into gold mine, when you look
Most
at
of it is
Godrej
now larger than the
family and
businesses they
how
ran.
much,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think that's very, very interesting. So when you joined the company, when you started your first day in 2011, what was the business then, and how did you get involved, and what did you do to take it to the next level?
The business model has been the same. It's not really changed. It's just creating these assets with our internal accruals and cash flow and holding on to them for the long run. Because what we found is the real wealth creation it happens when you hold these assets through cycles. Or so to give you an example, I think in the early 1980s, my father had built a property where the cost of construction was 150 rupees a square foot back then. And that asset, which we hold till today, gives you, say, that same amount every couple of months in rent. So the exponential increase when you hold something for 30, 40 years, just like equities, gold is very, very high. It's just hard to hold on to it for that long. I don't know in the future whether we're going to get these multiples 100x, 200x also, which is unlikely because of the scale of our economy and the way it's grown. But that has been the model from the beginning. The day I joined, I remember that it's not specifically the day, but the time I joined was not such a great time. It was 2010, 11, right after the global financial crisis. A lot of companies had been retrenching their space. So the market was a bit tough to operate in, but I thought that was a good time to learn in. But I didn't really start off saying I'll do something new or start a new project on my own or things like that. The first 5 years, honestly, of my business career was just learning, understanding, and making sure that I don't mess up what is already there. Because it's people don't like to accept it, but it's tough enough to do that when you jump into an operating business with a
Mhm.
lot of assets, with a lot of employees for a long time. It's very easy to come and say that I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and etc. etc. But half a decade, honestly, to make sure that I can handle what is already there and that doesn't go down. Then post that, I decided to do a little bit of expansion. So that was the beginning. I think more in 2014, 15 is when I started some new projects.
So when you joined in 2011, how much square feet was already sort of rented out?
It was fairly small, probably a couple of million square feet back then, built over a period of time. Because the city also was operating at that scale and things like that. That was the size. It's grown substantially now. But in our business, it's more a function of the market, Amit. It's not that we go after growth year after year, because whenever the opportunity presents itself, we try to capitalize on it. There have been many years in the past where we have done no projects at all, because sometimes the best strategy might be to do nothing, since we're not present in multiple markets across the country, concentrated to one city. It's a little bit of a passive approach, which again, I'm told by a lot of experts is not the right thing to do. But that's more of a personality trait and a decision the family makes, and it's
Mm.
it's different for everybody.
Right. And so luxury of having a land bank which was undeveloped, or once you got settled in the business, you started buying more land?
Yeah, so this is like a continuous process. I mean, there was no one large chunk of land that we had and we kept monetizing. Land acquisition and pooling is a skill that my father has, and I think that will end with him also because it's a really, really, I mean, difficult thing to do. I'm not so good at it now because you have to be able to go and talk to a farmer and you have to be able to understand the end product also. And that spectrum of thinking is rarely available with the second or third generation entrepreneurs. That started, I think, in the late 70s, early 80s. And it's a continuous process even till today. Even till today, every month, some of our cash flow goes into land banking.
Mm.
But having said that, I didn't start off at a disproportionate advantage because 2010-11 when I joined and looked at the portfolio, there was a lot of potential to develop projects. It might not have been ripe for office projects yet, but 2015-16 is when I took the bet to create something large on some land of ours. And that runway is there for the next 10 years also to build out things in the land we already own at which is at a significantly low cost, which is one of the reasons we're able to hold on to these assets and not sell them. Is because when you start off with a less upfront capital needed in terms of not needing to buy expensive land, then you have obviously an advantage, which is also why I'm comfortable doing business in this city and not in another
Mhm.
city, because there you have to cough up the money upfront for the land, which is just a different model. Basically, you have to build and sell if you do that.
You have now a couple of million square foot in 2011, and
Yeah, we
now
probably
you
added
are,
about 10 million or so there to
yeah,
that
so
number.
that's been quite a growth in last 15 years.
Yeah, it was just riding the wave of the country and just being at the right place, right time. I don't, a lot of people, you can pass it off as, a vision you had and things like that. But honestly, it's just good timing and not making mistakes consistently. And then if you can stick to your plan, you end up ahead of the market. That there's still some under construction and potential for growth. But since
Mhm.
COVID, the market has been a little bit slow. So we're also tempering our plans a little bit. But yeah, a country like India, I mean, it's just a matter of time before there's always double-digit growth in some way, form or the other.
And what has been your approach, to maintaining such high value relations? I believe you have marquee clients like Amazon, HSBC, Capgemini, and
Yeah, yeah,
long-term
you're,
contracts.
you're right. A lot of them are relationship based because they need to have the comfort that you'll be able to deliver what they need. A lot of it is also just timing of the market. If you have a good product out at the right time, the product speaks for itself. But it is a very B2B sort of focused business, like your earlier business also. We don't actually deal with hundreds of customers. It's probably a few dozen clients who you provide this service to. And I
Mm.
think more than anything, it's just the track record and history that speaks for itself. So that helps in maintaining these things because once you provide this infrastructure to these clients for 10, 15 years, you don't really have to do much. It's more of a set sort of system.
Right, correct. And your largest client would be having how much
I think it's
in
about,
terms of square
say,
foot?
15, 20% of our portfolio is concentrated to the largest clients, then it's 10%, 5%, and it keeps breaking off like that. It's not always good to have, one large client that represents a bulk of your portfolio because it's also a little bit of a risk. Nowadays, companies are going belly up before you know it. Nobody is immune to disruption. We try to spread out our risk a little bit. We have some clients that are not in the IT space also, like healthcare, a little bit of hospitality, just to diversify
Mm.
our annuity income. But yeah,
And you and your father did not consider expanding. Like a lot of real estate people are expanding to multiple cities now. Like Prestige has come in a big way into Mumbai
yeah.
and vice versa. Oberoi Reality has gone now to
Mhm.
Delhi and
Mhm.
NCR. So you did not want to have this approach of using your expertise and come to other southern cities or anywhere else in India.
We did consider it and we decided firmly against it. But that's more of just the DNA of who we are in terms of the amount of work we want to do, and so business is an important part of our lives, but it's not all encompassing. There are a lot of other parts that we give more importance to than business. So that's why we decided against rapid expansion elsewhere. I mean, it's just not something we want to do. We don't want to be on that treadmill like everybody else. A lot of the companies you mentioned are publicly traded companies and they're great companies, but they have an obligation quarter on quarter to show growth to their shareholders, investors, and things like that, which we did not want to do. Basically, we're comfortable doing business on our terms. If not, we're okay just sitting back and relaxing. And I know, again, all my Harvard Business School professors say that's not the right thing to do. And I tell them, you're right, it's not right. I know I'm doing something that's not the best, but I'm okay with it.
And within Hyderabad, also, like you always stuck to commercial. You didn't want to venture out into malls or into residential, which is catching up in India, luxury.
Yeah, like the same thing. We explored it and decided that our expertise is in this business, although retail and hospitality do lend themselves a little bit to asset ownership because you can still hold on to those assets. But those are completely different businesses, Amit. A lot of real estate players make the mistake of thinking that, if you have the land and you can build the building, you can run a hospital, you can run a school, you can run a hotel. But that's not how it works. You have experts in every field to do their job. So we are looking at some hospitality now, but obviously operated by third party under a management contract. But residential we did look at, but that's a real B2C sort of
Uh-huh.
business. And that once you start, you can't really stop. You have to keep going. You build
Hmm.
a customer
Hmm.
base and things like that.
Hmm.
And one of the main reasons is our focus has always been more of wealth creation than top line and revenue earning. So it might not be conducive to our mindset, is what we thought. And even for that, I'm pretty sure we were not right, but that's the way it is.
Great. We'll now sort of divulge into, it's a, your business is set. You have got a good sort of square foot, which is quite big, and you're also slowly buying land bank. How are you seeing? It's yours is your father was the first generation. Now you're the second generation. How are you looking forward in terms of legacy planning? How much your father is involved in the business, and what are you thinking for the future? I believe you have a sister, if I'm
No, I
not
have a
mistaken.
no sister. I have an elder brother.
Acha.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have an elder brother who's 5 years older than me. He's a doctor in America now.
Okay, so he's settled there.
He settled, yeah, about 25 years ago. He left India to do his undergrad, and he did come back for a few months to try out the business, but decided it's not his cup of
Hmm.
tea. He's more of an academic, so he
Right.
moved and
Yeah.
lives there now. Sometimes I do wonder whether he made the right decision or I did, because he is quite a relaxed man with no stress, a full head of hair.
So, how's any discussion within your family on any, given insight nowadays? It's a big talk, in Camden also. Everybody talks about family planning, legacies, succession planning.
Yeah. So in terms of that structure, it's set up to operate smoothly going forward. It's just that I don't give that too much thought because we're fairly lean. Like I said, my father is the chairman now of the company, and it's not that he's not involved in the business. He is involved in certain aspects because you can't really stop being involved if you're the first generation entrepreneur. You're
Right.
always involved in some way or the other. But like I said, the line is just him and then me. So it stops there as of now. Luckily, the decision making is very fast and we're on the same page for the most part. My daughters are still fairly young, and I'm clear that I don't want to burden them with anything that they would not want to. I want to give them a choice to do whatever they want. So it's not something we've thought about that much, probably too early in our space.
Uh, you are, you have, as you said, you have a lean structure, father's chairman, you are there. How's your, after you have you built a professional line in terms of operations?
Yeah, so the asset management and maintenance is handled by a fairly large team of a couple
Uh-huh.
of hundred people to take care of these assets. The construction part is more or less outsourced at this point for new build. The organization itself is not very large. It's a lean team because you don't need to be really top heavy in this sort of business. Because, like I said, once you create the assets and they're running, there's not much to do. It's only whenever there is scope to build out something new, then you can choose a couple of models, different models to make those assets. You don't really need a large company in terms of employee base to do this. Compared to residential, where you need hundreds of people in sales and marketing and things like that, this is fairly small.
Okay. And in terms of your outlook for the next 5 to 8 years, are you continue to build more commercial space? And how do you see the market in Hyderabad evolving? Because there are other real estate companies and there are many, ultimately the land may outgrow and the demand may, plateau. So where do you see in terms of
Yeah,
next
so
5 to 8 years?
I think in the next decade or so, nobody can deny that the India story is very strong. I mean, we're going to have great growth and become the third largest economy before the end of this decade itself. So that story is very strong. Our population growth and average age is very good, which lends itself to this window of opportunity we have for the next 20 years, similar to what China had 20 years ago. So the macros are very, very good, apart from what's going on right now in terms of the trade war and stuff. But I think that'll settle down. The challenge comes when you have to handle every year at a time, because every time you're faced with something new, especially since COVID hit. I mean, I always thought that, okay, real estate and office buildings will be immune to any disruption, but it looks like I was wrong because COVID really disrupted the way people work and how many times they come into the office and things like that. That was a slowdown in our industry for a few years in the beginning of this decade. But having said that, I think the job growth is really good. All the companies are sending more jobs over to our country, given the amount of talent pool we have. So the positives outweigh the negatives. In terms of our market that we're in, it's been fairly good in the last 7 8 years in terms of growth, because we had a lot of disadvantages the last 15 years in terms of some political uh,
Mhm.
turmoil and then splitting of the state into two different states and things like that. I think going forward it should only get better, apart from the minor hiccups that you face on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I think it's going to be in spite of the volatility globally. I think India is yet staged for big growth. I was just reading in the newspaper and I was seeing. I think today morning Piyush Goyal was talking where he said that uh, in that yesterday when the stock markets went down globally. I think India was the least down in terms of percentage. So I think we have that way a robust internal economy. And I would say that, after US, India is really strong as a country, we've been reading of so many incidents happening to young people who are suddenly, having health issues or sudden heart attacks.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think people who overwork, uh, I think it doesn't really give them, because you need to be fit to enjoy your life, live longer. Otherwise, how much can you,
Yeah,
be working in this olden days, 16 hours a
definitely.
day, and at the end, yeah, yeah, yeah,
There's no point in working so hard that it affects your health. And a lot of people realize this later in
correct,
life
correct,
after they've slogged their whole
yeah,
life, then
yeah,
they start focusing on their health. But a lot of the time with business owners and entrepreneurs, it's not really physical health, it's the mental stress that you have to deal with. Because
correct, correct,
although
correct,
you might work only 3 4 hours a day, you and I know that even in your dreams, sometimes your business issues keep coming. So it's on your mind
correct,
all the time, the whole day, even if you're not at work or at office. It's that stress that's more difficult to deal with in terms of the pressures that come up with you. And in
yeah,
a
yeah,
country like India, in our system, you know that promoters, most of their bandwidth and energy and time goes in dealing with issues that are not normally
correct, correct,
the solutions for which are not found in business school or in
mm,
books, right? I mean,
correct, correct.
these are all issues to do that you have to learn on the fly, and each situation is different.
Yeah. No, also I think what direction you and your father have taken, keeping yourself busy with commercial real estate in Hyderabad, growing there. So many families I meet, they want to do so many new things and expand, into too many things, and at the end of the day then you spread too thin, and also it sort of gets you overworked and it does not result into long term.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
if
not
they
good.
have if they have the energy and penchant for that, I guess it might be good. But that's a very very individual sort of decision.
Correct,
There's no
correct.
right or wrong
Yeah.
in those sort of scenarios. But we generally tend to err on the side of caution, take little less risk, and do little less that we can handle rather than over expand.
Correct. So, last question for you is advice to our audience, and what do you, as a next gen, what is your advice to people who are entering business, new do's and don'ts?
You know, I'm not. I
Anything
don't
you
think
want to
I'm. I
say?
don't think I'm really qualified to give advice. You can give the advice because you have gone through the whole circle of building the business and exiting. But in general, what I would say is don't take the business too seriously. There are other aspects to life that are more important. And in general, we tend to always worry about the future and not enjoy.
I think it's the correct advice you have given, and thank you for taking time out for our first episode on Business Families Unplugged. For the And for the audience, we had a lovely discussion here with Abhinav. He and, of course, his father grew this business in the last 30, 35 years, and very interesting discussions. I hope you all enjoyed and learned. And we'll see you again with another business leaders shortly. Thank you, Abhinav.